Welcome to the Stogie Geek Show, episode 120. This episode is sponsored by Age Selects, providing cigar enthusiasts with a premium long filler cigar aged at least 5 years at an extraordinary price. Order today at cigarfrontier.com. And by Mr. J's Havana Smoke Shop, located here in Rhode Island. They have an outstanding selection of premium handmade cigars. And by the Havana Cigar Club, located in Warwick, Rhode Island. It's a great place to enjoy a drink and a cigar. Stogie Geeks listeners can find a $5 coupon on our website by clicking the HCC logo. And by A.J. Fernandez Cigars. A.J. Fernandez Cigars are handcrafted in Nicaragua using the finest materials. Brands include the San Latano, Pinolero, and A.J.'s recently released New World brand. Visit them on the web at ajfernandezcigars.com. And by Debonair Cigars. Visit stogiegeeks.com/debonair for a list of retailers who carry Debonair. Buy some today and get a little more debonair. And by Ocean State Cigars. Try the J. Grotto series cigar, including the Connecticut Shade Silk, limited edition J. Grotto Reserva lines, and the new J. Grotto Anniversary. Visit them on the web at oceanstatecigars.com. Welcome, everyone, to this edition of the Stogie Geek Show. I'm your host, Paul Asadori, and wonderful to be here this evening. I have on the lines via Skype my illustrious co-host, Mr. Will Cooper.
Hey,
Welcome,
greetings, everybody.
What's going on, Will?
I tell you what, I kind of feel I'm back in, I guess now I'm going to call it Studio C. After a couple of shows in Rhode Island, I kind of miss it up there.
I know, huh? You were sitting right next to me in a couple of previous shows.
I know. Yeah.
You sound
yeah,
like you're right here, though. We did some upgrades in the studio, so. And are you using your new headset that we sent out to you?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, no, it sounds good, dude. It sounds good. I think we're in good shape there. I've got a cocktail here that I wanted to tell our listeners about. I know we talk about pairings. This is one of my favorite pairings. We've talked about it on the show before, but I don't care because I really like this pairing. I've kind of concocted an old-fashioned. And the way I've done that, because we don't have any fresh oranges here in the studio. We need to get a production assistant or something on that. But there's no oranges here in the studio. So what I've done, I've had a couple of dashes of orange bitters, a couple of dashes of black walnut bitters with some sugar and a maraschino cherry. I've muddled that all together in the bottom of the glass. I like to put a little bit of that maraschino cherry juice in the bottom as well. It kind of offsets a little of that bitterness of the bitters. And then I used, I would say like 2.5 parts Bullet Rye, which I think may be one of my favorite whiskeys to have in an old-fashioned. So 2.5 parts Bullet Rye, and like the rest was like a little splash of Mount Gay Black Rum. It's aged in bourbon barrels. It offsets a little of that sharpness from the Bullet Rye. And gives a nice little touch of sweet flavor. I don't like to put too much in there. I kind of just top it off a little bit with it. Mix that in with a little bit of ice. And let me tell you, Will, this goes with, I mean, any cigar. It's really what does it for me in this particular cocktail is that black walnut bitters. That black walnut bitters is spectacular. It adds this touch of like maple syrup kind of flavor, which just really kind of it brings to life the flavors in a cigar, in my opinion. So that's been one of my favorite pairings as of late.
Last week, when we were 2 weeks ago, when we were doing the marathon show, you made a cocktail, and it was the one I had with the Fernando Leon cigar, and it had that. Was it the one? Did you have the bitter walnuts in there?
The black walnut was in that one. Yes.
That was. I'll tell you what. You want to talk about something that's just tailor-made for a cigar? That was ideal.
Isn't it though? It's made
it really
from
was.
Fee Brothers is a big manufacturer of bitters. They make that black walnut flavor. You can order it on Amazon. It's not like hard to find or anything. And I strongly recommend people experiment that with their cocktails when they're pairing with a cigar. As Will even kind of just mentioned as well and corroborates my story. that it pairs very well with a cigar.
Yeah, and we have a show we did on episode 112 where we had Jack Daniel as our guest, and he gives a really good primer for how to do that, which I learned a lot from on that show. So definitely check that out if you're interested in some more.
Now, speaking of that, we got our blending seminar coming up, stogiegeeks.com/blending. Maybe during the next segment, I'm going to try and put some pictures up of the blending kit that you get. I'm going to send those to the production assistants. We're going to hopefully get those up on the screen.
I haven't seen this even, so I'm pretty excited.
The picture of that blending kit is awesome. Awesome. So the blending kit, stogiegeeks.com/blending, we'll send you the blending kit. You get that kit. We're going to put it up on the screen. We will send that to you. Todd's going to work on getting your shipping address in there. It will ship to your billing address if you go on there now, but we're going to work on getting it in case your billing is separate from your shipping. Don't worry. If you register, I promise, email me, call me, whatever. We'll make sure that you get your blending kit before the blending seminar. It's $50 if you want to just do the blending seminar. You can do that remotely. And you get those Puritos, and it's each individual component of the La Aurora Preferidos blend. And Manuel's going to come down from La Aurora. It's the first time he's ever done this in the U.S., blah, 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 blah. But going back to the cocktails, I ordered this big set of bitters from Fee Brothers. And it comes with like 12 different kinds of bitters. And Chris and I actually tasted every different kind of bitters to see what they would taste like. So it was kind of like a drink blending seminar where we tasted the individual components of the drink. And I'll actually see Jack doing that too. He'll pour a little bit of like whiskey in his glass and sip it and then figure out how it'll kind of go together. And that's where the real skill comes in. Now, I don't recommend that you smoke a cigar when you're tasting bitters because it's just a terrible experience. But
I would agree.
You get the flavors. So then when you're making cocktails, you can kind of figure out how to offset and blend those flavors together into something spectacular. So very cool stuff. I'd like to introduce our and Will, do you have a pairing? I'm sorry, before we introduce our guest, you said you had a pairing. You want to do that now or you want to wait? Or
why don't we get to the guest, and then we'll kick off right before Stogie's the week. I'll get into that.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yep. This way we kind of move. Yep.
Yeah. So Markus Raty is with us. Markus, welcome.
Thank you, guys. Great to be here.
Yes, great to have you on the show, Markus. Markus is one of the folks behind Tierra Volcan Cigars. It is distributed by Mombacho Cigars. Did I say all that right, Markus? Did I get that right?
I would just add that we're also distributed by RoMa Craft.
Oh, okay. Excellent.
So, Markus, just to clarify, I think we were talking about this before the show. Mombacho is the name of the company, and Tierra Volcan is the name of the brand in the U.S., correct?
That's correct. Mombacho Cigars S.A. That's our name of our factory down in Grenada, Nicaragua. And in the U.S., the brand is called Tierra Volcan. And we are distributed by RoMa Craft, although we do our own sales and marketing.
Now, have you been distributed in the U.S. for some time?
Just since July of this year at the IPCPR we launched. I should make a special note that we've had one shop carrying our cigars for a couple of years, and that's the Leaf and Bean in Pittsburgh, which is where I sit right now. And then we had a special relationship with Island Jim there, but we really launched en masse at the show this year.
And you've been primarily distributed in, is it Canada, Europe, and China?
Well, primarily Canada, and then we certainly have some exposure in Europe, and then we have a little satellite office in Shanghai.
Excellent. That's very cool. So what's your background? How did you get into the cigar industry?
Well, my ethnic background is Finnish, but my background professionally, I've been all over the map. I've been in the banking world, and I was in the publishing world. And then my buddy and I, my best friend and I, were on a backpacking trip through Central America, 2006. And we stumbled across Nicaragua, our favorite country of the Central American Isthmus. And we fell in love with the city of Granada, Nicaragua. And we were there hanging out and befriended the local cigar maker there who made cigars for the passers-by, really. They lived in the back of the house, and they made cigars in the front. And quite simply, we ended up rescheduling the rest of our trip to spend more time there in Nicaragua, punctuated by these moments that we had with this family who took us in like their own. And here's one of the second poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, giving us so much of the little they had, of their time, of their food, and really of their resources they had at their disposal there. And that was the beginning of the Mombacho story for us. That trip in 2006.
Very cool. Markus, how did you come to create Tierra Volcan and get involved with Mombacho Cigars?
So after that, we were in that trip there again, backpacking as a couple of guys in their early 30s, living in Toronto, Canada. And our last day of the trip, we climbed the Mombacho volcano, which overlooks the city of Granada. We were smoking one of Silvio's cigars, our local cigar maker friend, and we were overlooking the city of Granada, and just reflecting on the trip we had and trying to figure out how can we share some of these Nicaraguan moments with our friends back home. And we thought, let's bring back some of this guy's cigars. And they were unbranded, sort of a family recipe cigar. And we brought a few of these bundles back, and living together in Toronto, my buddy and I, we started having these little mini herfs, inviting our friends and family over for cigar moments. And, quite frankly, the cigars were really a vehicle to these moments. And the cigars were secondary at first and then became primary later. And that was really the genesis of the Mombacho Cigars, lifestyle brand that we've started to build now, which was these cigar moments that we had, whether they be in our home or backyards or at parties, and really that it evolved from there. We realized that no one in Canada was bringing an activation-based cigar lifestyle experience to the market, and quite frankly, we had been invited to any number of single malt Scotch tastings and tutored wine tastings, but no one had ever invited us to learn about cigars. And I should also mention that the cigars we brought back were very well received. So one day we had that eureka moment, which was let's become this market's cigar experts and really share the love of the leaf that we've discovered recently with our cohorts. And that was the beginning of the Mombacho story. We then went back to Nicaragua, business plan in hand, shook hands with the cigar family that we had met, and started bringing those cigars back into Canada. We spent 2 years developing packaging and branding around it, started doing cigars at golf tournaments and parties and, various kinds of, events. And really we did private clients for the first 4 or 5 years. And then the word started spreading. We had the opportunity to do the cigars for the Toronto Maple Leafs and Raptors and Blue Jays and a bunch of other fun brands, which really these legacy brands that helped bring our credibility up. That got us to the point where retailers started calling us, and that allowed us to start the retail game, which happened last year in Canada.
So now, hold on, Markus, because you tell a different story than a lot of people come on and tell on the show. You were backpacking through Nicaragua, you found this small family making cigars, and you basically formed a company around that and started getting other people to smoke them. Did I get that right?
That's the essence of it. Yeah, we weren't of the leaf. We're just a couple of guys from different backgrounds, and we, for us, the Mombacho, the cigar story begins with the story of Nicaragua, and the cigar to this day continues to be a vehicle for us to share our Nicaraguan experience in that country, that beautiful country, with our friends and family and now customers.
So now, where were the cigars originally available? Like, did you have to go to Nicaragua to get this family's cigars, or did they have any distribution before you came along?
No, they made them locally. They had some of their other cigars were shipped to various private customers in the States. Mm-hmm. But the cigar that we tried had been, prior to that moment, had only been available at their shop there. And so we developed the distribution around it. And in fact, we branded that cigar. And then within a couple of years, we decided to build our own factory. So that helped us to get to a point where we were able to introduce the cigar to the cigar smoking masses.
That's really cool, and that's interesting because it's different story than most people come in and tell. Not that it's any good, bad, or indifferent, right? But it's different than the person who says, well, I go to the factory and I blend all these leaves together. But you kind of found this family that had been established in making cigars, and you're like, wow, these are really, really good. I want to bring these to other people. That's really cool.
It was really, again, because we're sort of live in this vacuum of Canada, which the cigar industry is much different than it is down in the States. We didn't have any kind of a pre-bias towards the industry. We had no nothing in mind except to share those cigars and share our stories with our friends and family, and it grew from there. And so it allows us to to be a little more. Let's say we're a little bit. We still operate out of the box a little bit, and certainly, many people tell us we're plum fools for trying to build a cigar brand out of Canada, and notwithstanding the fact that we're building our own factory, not just going to a third-party manufacturer. But that's our story. We want to build a cigar brand that becomes a legacy brand that long outlives us.
Now, there's an interesting second component that you kind of touched on, Marcus, and that's Grenada. And Grenada is not known for really being, from my understanding, it's not known for being a big cigar-making city. It's, everyone thinks of Esteli. And I've been to Grenada, and I've been to Esteli, and very different cities. For folks who may not be familiar with Grenada, because it's a very unique city I found, not just in Nicaragua, but in Central America. Maybe you could just talk a little about that. And assuming I'm correct in my assumption that there's not a lot of cigar making in Grenada.
Yeah, it would be my pleasure, Will. And Grenada is the real gem of Nicaragua in many respects, not from a cigar standpoint. There are a few there are a few small kiosk cigar makers besides this cigar family that we met, and I should mention them, Doña Alba Cigars. They're still in existence, and they're a wonderful family of cigars. But outside of them, there's no manufacturing hub for cigars in Grenada. It's hotter and more humid than Esteli. It's difficult to control your environment. It's quite frankly a tourist city. It's a colonial town. It's in fact my understanding is it's the oldest city on the American continent, founded in 1524.
It's a lot of beaches in Grenada, right?
Well, there are beaches, but they're not coastline. It's on Lake Nicaragua, so it's one of the world's largest freshwater lakes, and it does sit on in the shadows of the Mombacho volcano on Lake Nicaragua. In fact, in the indigenous language, Mombacho means the mother of our islands. So when the Grand Dame Mombacho volcano blew up some 20,000 years ago, it created these 300 little islets that now dot the Lake Nicaragua around Grenada. It's about an hour and 15 minutes from the Pacific coastline.
And then you mentioned it's a colonial city, and I've been there, and I can tell you it's like being in a British colonial city, I guess is the best way I can put it. It's very different than anything I've seen in Central America before.
Very much so, and it's really been preserved well. It avoided a lot of the conflicts that Nicaragua was beset by over the generations and centuries. It's a beautiful city. The people are lovely, as they are throughout Nicaragua, and we've been chided by the industry at large for wanting to continue to make cigars in Grenada, because we could have very easily, moved shop up north by about 2.5 hours. But we didn't get into the cigar game for cigars. We discovered Grenada, and we want to continue to pay homage to that city and continue to employ Grenadinos as well as some Estelianos in the city of Grenada, and make that, really put our stamp in that city as an up-and-coming cigar city. So
the tobacco in Tierra Volcan, does this all come from a particular region in Nicaragua, or is it like farms around where your factory is, or do you source from different places? Or
it's 100% Nicaraguan puro, or puro. So it's the tobacco in our cigars, in our flagship line that we've released now in the States, starting with the wrapper leaf. It's a Habano seed, sun-grown Jalapa Valley wrapper. So a lot of flavor and punch to the wrapper leaf. It's a very dark wrapper leaf for not being a Maduro. And then the filler is a blend of Condega and Jalapa leaves. Mm-hmm. So there's no Esteli tobacco in there, but the tobacco does come from the northern regions. There is no tobacco from the Granada region. There is some tobacco grown in the south of Nicaragua on the Ometepe volcano island, which sits in the middle of Lake Nicaragua, but to date we haven't used any of that tobacco.
Yeah, it's very good. There's this definite kind of Nicaraguan sweetness that comes off that wrapper.
Yeah.
That I get when I smoke this. Would you say, Will?
Oh, definitely.
And it's really, this cigar is meant to be a medium-bodied cigar in strength, but full-flavored. It's the cigar that we've been making now. It's evolved for the U.S. market, but it's a cigar that we came to the game with. And really, our mission has been to grow the cigar smoking pie. for lack of a better term, and that is that most of our customers began as not cigar smokers and have evolved into them, and now our cohort is growing to include regular cigar enthusiasts. But we wanted to make a cigar family that was, or a line that was approachable to all.
No, yeah, Marcus, I got to say, you know, I had these cigars. You were in Charlotte. I think it was back before IPCPR. I was pretty impressed with the cigar. These things are really aging well. I mean, they're just getting, and I've heard the feedback from a lot of customers, they're just really getting good over time here.
Well, we appreciate that feedback. And, you know, as with anything, when you come out of the gates, there's going to be some wrinkles to iron out, and especially when you're your own manufacturer. But they have aged well. We've heard that feedback as well. And the batch that would have arrived just this last few weeks into the States from Nicaragua is better than ever. So the cigars are really coming along nicely.
Yeah, no, this is very good. I'm smoking the Classico size, and really liking it. It's very good.
Yeah, and I have the Grande, which actually I've really kind of gone to the Grande is one I've really liked. I just think it's a nice cigar as well.
Yeah, I'm holding the Grande up for the camera now. Now, Brian says this is a very slow smoking cigar. That's what he said. Well, take your time with this one.
Yeah, but Brian is correct in that. And I'll tell you, our master blender, Claudio Scroi, who might be the world's only Sicilian cigar master.
I love it.
Yeah, he's got a story in and of himself, which I can share. But what we would love to be known for is making a cigar that is a slow-burning, cool-burning cigar, where we certainly put a lot of tobacco in there, try and do that without giving it too tight of a draw. And you know, we find that when you put the right amount of tobacco in, we don't want your fingers to be able to touch when you light that cigar. We don't want you to have to be able to race through it. And a cool cigar, you know, it tastes and performs better than a hot cigar.
Totally agree.
Yeah, no, and you're definitely on the money there, because it is burning very cool, and you definitely get a richer flavor experience. I agree.
I believe that you know, you really get the master blenders, you know, what he was looking for in that profile. You really optimize that experience when you have a slow burning cigar. And you know, as we all know, I mean, the less oxygen you pull through that cigar, the more it's like drinking coffee that's too hot. You know, you can't really get the flavor of that coffee out until it cools down a little bit.
Mm. Yeah, this cigar would pair very well with coffee, although it's pairing very well with my cocktail tonight.
I'm actually having some Italian roast coffee, and it is pairing perfect with it.
I would say it would probably pair a little better with coffee.
Yeah.
It's also pairing well with my Woollovers oatmeal stout that I picked up today.
Nice.
Well, that's good. You know, I think I said it last week too. The versatility of a cigar, to be able to pair with different things and be able to smoke it at different times. And I think that's why cigar smokers today, I find, are going for that medium-bodied, full-flavored kind of smoke. And this cigar is hitting that mark for me.
Couldn't agree more on both your points, but especially your first one, which is that you know, we're you know, if you're looking for a full-bodied cigar that in strength that punches you in the mouth for an hour, you know, there are those options, and some people look for them. There's no with all due respect, I enjoy one myself once in a while, but as my go-to cigar, I like to have a medium-bodied but full-flavored cigar.
Excellent, excellent. So tell me about the different sizes that you have in Tierra Volcan. So we've talked about the Classico, which seems to be Robusto-ish size.
Mm-hmm. So the one that you're smoking there, Paul, is a Classico, which is the first cigar we came out of the gate with, and it's a 5.5 by 50, so what we call a Robusto Extra. And the one that cigar I'm smoking right now is the Tierra Volcan Corto, which in Spanish means short, which is just a short Robusto, 4 by 50. And then Will's got the Grande, which is a classic Toro size, 6.25 by 54. And then our fourth cigar, which is we call it a cigarrito. It's 4.5 by 26.
I'm gonna hold that up for the camera as well. I have one right here.
Oh, great. Yeah, and I'll tell you, one of the things about those cigars is they are entirely handmade from long filler, which is it's a difficult task to make a cigar perform well at that gauge by hand. And so it produces, you know, don't let its size belie the fact that it really produces a lot of smoke and flavor. And we like to say that's our Canadian contribution to the cigar world, which is up in Toronto where you can't smoke inside anywhere, we don't have any smoking lounges or bars or even cigar stores you can smoke in. Folks still want their cigar, they still want a cigar experience, and this gives them a 15, 20-minute opportunity to enjoy the full effect of a cigar in a smaller gauge and shorter size.
Yeah, I think Brian was saying that he was somewhere in the U.S. and it was chilly outside. The weather in the Northeast in general is crazy, especially this fall. I mean, we've had some really warm days, and we had some cold spell come in, and that must have been when he said he was outside and he had like half the place outside smoking cigars, and he was smoking this smaller size that you mentioned, and he said he had everyone smoking. So it's really cool. They've
been well received. It's they come in a box of 6, a handmade cedar box and an old school cigarette style slide top wooden box, a beautiful, elegant box. And they've been racing off the shelves in our short history here in the States. So very happy with that cigar. And Claudio, our master blender, he spent a lot of time training the staff to get to a point where they can make that consistently perform well.
And it's pre-clipped as well, making a cheroot style, right?
Yeah, that one is pre-clipped, and just to make it a little bit easier on the consumer. And a lot of folks who smoke that cigar might not have a pair of cutters on them in the moment. And again, when you're in the cold there, sometimes when it's minus 30 in Canada, your fingers don't operate cutters very well.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and the wrapper can crack as you cut it.
Indeed.
No, that's really cool. Those of us in the Northeast in the U.S. appreciate those smaller sizes for times like that. So tell us about your relationship with RoMa Craft Tobacco.
So it's a wonderful story insofar as it's the coming together of two companies with similar philosophies, which is to say that a couple years ago, in fact, I should begin by saying that the very first shop that carried our cigars here, that carried the Mombacho flag, now the Tierra Volcan flag in the States, was a Leaf and Bean here on the Strip. And that happened by way of Jim Robinson, who is getting to be known as Island Jim around cigar circles, brought a bunch of his customers down through Nicaragua a couple years ago, and he ended up coming through our shop in Granada, through our factory doors, and fell in love with the place and insisted on carrying our cigars. And we said, Jim, we're not ready for the U.S. market yet. And he's like, no, I want to carry them. They're really good. And we really were we're birds of a feather. So we said, Jim, no problem, but I can service you from Toronto, but you'll be a lone wolf there for a while. And so he was fine with that, and he started moving a lot of cigars, and we had great times whenever we came to Pittsburgh. About a year after that, he came through the factory doors dragging Skip Martin with him, of RoMa Craft fame. And Skip ambles into the factory as he does, and we struck up a conversation. And I think he was wearing flip-flops and shorts and T-shirt. I think that's a standard military issue outfit there in Esteli. And we started chatting up, and we realized that we had very similar philosophies with respect to, honoring Nicaragua and its tobacco, but also, and in our case, probably his case as well, more importantly, the family, the cigar family behind the cigars, and as we call them, the Mombacho family. So there he was, in Esteli, building his own factory, going against the curve, and we were doing the same thing in Granada, unbeknownst to him, and plying our trade north of the border. So it's a rare thing these days to be a fully vertically integrated company, with with the exception of tobacco growing. And so we formed a bit of a bond over that. Had some cigars, enjoyed our company, drank some German boots of beer at Charlie's Bar, and German restaurant in Granada, by the way, worth visiting. And so then the relationship began just through sharing each other's success stories and challenges. And when we were talking about entering the U.S. market sometime later, we just came to a mutual understanding or agreement, let's say, that there was a way where we can help each other facilitate that. And so, to make a long story, maybe not short, but somewhat shorter, the RoMa Craft guys, we piggyback on their shipments. So they ship regularly to the States in their warehouses in Austin. So when they ship cigars out, we attach our shipment to theirs to capture some of the economies of scale there. They ship our cigars they clear them, ship them to Austin, warehouse them with theirs, and then they fulfill any of the orders that we get. So they do the back of house logistics for us. and we do all of our sales and marketing. We have complementary brands, so a lot of the shops that carry their brands have started carrying ours. Skip's partner, Mike Rosales, is on the road with one of our partners, Matt Hain, who's become our U.S. guy, full-time guy. And so the two of them go on the road together and share the love of the leaf.
That's awesome. Very cool.
Yeah, so it's worked out great. And, you know, again, we're our own guys. We have our own team. We do our own sales and marketing. We're just, they're helping us get product to market, really. They're helping with the administrative. I'll tell you, it's tough as Canadians to get set up in the States. You know, it may be a little more difficult perhaps than being U.S. based, just with respect to things like incorporation and getting your TTB license and bank account set up and logistics and having the relationships. So that really helped us. It helped our learning curve.
Will, did you have more questions for Markus?
Yeah. So, Markus, you guys recently had a pretty exciting announcement in that you are now in the process of moving into a new facility for the factory. But it's not just the factory that you're going to be setting shop up there. It's going to be more of what I saw as an overall customer experience center. Can you talk a little about that? Because that sounded real exciting.
It'll be my pleasure, and it's something that we're very, very proud of and excited to share. And that's that when we left the Reyes family there in 2010 and set up shop on the main drag in Granada called the Calzada, we had a small little place there, and we've sort of outgrown that. And as much as we loved that space, and all of our visitors did, we really needed space to grow into. And we found a beautiful architectural historic gem in Granada. Again, Granada known for its beautiful colonial architecture. It was this beautiful building built in 1925 by an Nicaraguan Italian architect named Favilli. And so it came to be known as Casa Favilli. And we found it, no, I wouldn't say derelict, but certainly, suffering a little bit from the pounding of time. And so we acquired that building, and we spent this past 4 to 5 months renovating it. And we like to say it's a brand new historic building. And I mean, it's as close to a LEED certified cigar factory as you'll find. It's completely climate controlled. Every single space in there where the cigars are either being worked on or aged or packaged or tobacco's being sorted has individual climate control environment. It's got a beautiful reverse osmosis, aging bodega, aging room, where the mist is so fine if you held up a pane of glass to it, it wouldn't accumulate any beads of water. And more importantly, it's allowed us to renovate a historic structure in Nicaragua by an architect who was very well known in those circles down there for creating masterpieces in the country. And it's allowed us to provide a home for our growing team down there, and we're very proud of it. To your point, though, Will, about it being a customer experience center, our mission statement is at Mombacho, and by way of Tierra Volcan in the States, is to provide the world's most memorable cigar experience. And not the biggest or the best cigar. It's a very qualitative or very subjective term, but the world's most memorable. And to us, that means that the heartbeat of any cigar company or any cigar brand is the place where it's made. And in our case, we welcome everybody we meet, customers, retailers, suppliers, whoever, to come down and share with us the Casa Favilli experience, where we offer obviously the cigar tours, make your own cigar. We've renovated the first 2 floors of the building, and now this year coming 2015, we'll be renovating the 3rd floor, which will become the cigar lounge, where there'll be a pool built and a cigar bar. There's a 4th floor turret, which is the highest point in Granada, and a beautiful view of the Mombacho volcano, of all the church steeples and Lake Nicaragua itself. And it's a one-of-a-kind venue for cigar making. It's top of class, at least top of class, shared with others, I'm sure, but in our minds, top of class in terms of the manufacturing capacity of it. And we're also obviously proud to welcome folks there just to come and enjoy a cigar and a Florida Caña rum.
Yeah, I mean, I'll put some pictures in the show notes. There's some pictures on Cigar Coop of that. It kind of looked like a cross of that. It had some of that definite Italian influence in there, with I think just kind of I looked at it as a cross of like Italian and Nicaraguan culture kind of fused together there. It was really, really beautiful from the photos I got. from you
Well,
guys.
Appreciate that, Will. And it also above on top of what you just mentioned, it also has a little bit of an Art Deco flair to it. Some of the angles have an Art Deco flair. It has an homage to the Spanish colonial history of Granada, and it's got these beautiful statuettes lining the grand staircases that are original and have been refinished. I mean, it's a real sight to see, and we're very, very proud to be able to reintroduce it to Nicaraguans as a real badge of their architectural heritage.
There are also and you've kind of touched on it, Casa Favelli and your blender Claudio. There seems to be an Italian influence. Is that just something? Is there an Italian presence in Granada? It's
a lovely coincidence. Claudio Scroi, he originally came to us. We had a job posting on LinkedIn for a country manager in China, and before we could pull the posting down, we realized very quickly that what we needed was a Mandarin-speaking local to really be that point person there. As beautiful a cigar man or woman as one could be, you need someone who speaks Mandarin to connect with the local populace. But in the meantime, Claudio had applied for the position, and we couldn't ignore his CV. It was just rich with cigar experiences, and so I called him up. We had a chat. We chatted for about an hour. This is about 3 years ago now. We chatted for about an hour and didn't discuss cigars for a minute. We talked about food and life and history and music and anything but cigars, just to really get a feel for each other. And really that evolved into an opportunity. He came to Toronto to chat with us in person. We had some beers together. We really enjoyed each other's company, and we discovered that he was really a bird of a feather, and that was that he was a real soulful guy who really cared about people and what he was doing, a passion for whatever he pursued in life, rather than just looking for an opportunity to crank out whatever number of things he could in his life. And so his short history is that he spent over a decade working with Davidoff, and he was actually worked under the thumb of Henke in the Dominican Republic, all the way from seeds to the table. So he was really Henke's protege for several years there in Dominican Republic, learning all about tobacco and blending. And then they sent him to be their store manager at their Geneva flagship store, where he learned the retail trade for 3 years. And after that, he was the Italian country manager for Davidoff for 3 or 4 years. So he really had a great cross-section of cigar experience. He had left Davidoff to pursue other opportunities. Some of those came and went, and it was serendipitous, and we were quite fortunate to come into into contact with him. And he joined our team full-time, the family, in January 2012. And again, he's from Palermo, Sicily, so we like to joke that he's the world's only Sicilian cigar maker. So it was very serendipitous, and just a pure chance that this building we discovered was Italian designed. I mean, obviously, it really gave him an extra sense of pride. But he's a marvelous cigar maker. He can speak tobacco in 5 languages. He's the real conductor of our orchestra there in Nicaragua. Real special human being.
Wow, excellent.
Yeah, he's in his late 30s, married a Dominican Republican girl there, and they both live now in Granada, and where he oversees the factory, all of our operations there, and all of our upcoming blends and new sizes. He's become a real regular stalwart in the Esteli cigar community, where he spends a couple days a week, knows all the growers and the suppliers, and he's a real old world soul, in this world period and in the industry specifically, and we're very fortunate to have him on our team.
One more question I have is, you mentioned at the top of the interview that you've I guess worked with some of the Toronto sports teams, and these cigars have gotten into their hands. Are there any more famous players that you maybe have smoked these cigars?
Well, we have one one story of note, which is that back in 2011, 3 years ago, Dallas Mavericks were playing the Miami Heat in the NBA Finals, and the game 6 of the finals was in Miami. Dallas was up 3-2, really, which was a surprise to all. And one of my buddies in Toronto knew some people down there. He was going down to the game, and so we rushed over to him to put a couple of boxes of cigars in his hands on his way down, just in case he'd be in anybody's company there. And turns out Dallas wins the game, wins the championships. Our friend Simon Ibel ends up in the dressing room with the fellas there from the Mavericks, and he shares a box of cigars with the guys in the room. They hit the town. They smoke Mombachos, which are now Tierra Volcans. And then, unbeknownst to him, he comes back to Toronto, and he's like, guys, he's this little guy, and he comes back. He's like, guys, I had this great time. Here's my story, but I lost my camera. I got no pictures. And we're like, Simon, that's all right. I'm sure something will turn up. And then one of our current partners, Matt Hain, who's now running the U.S. ops for us, at the time was our best customer in Canada. And he calls me in a frantic, heat. And he's like, dude, are you on the computer? Dude, man, check it out. I'm like, Matt, I'm watching the NHL finals. It's Vancouver against Boston. Don't bother me, right? He's like, no, you got to Google Dallas and cigars. Turns out that they kept a box of cigars for the flight home. And when they walked off the plane, they all had a Mombacho cigar in their mouths from Mark Cuban all the way on. So the whole team came off from the tarmac with Mombachos in their mouths, which is something, it's priceless. I guess you can't really pay for it because everything else is all NBA oriented. And that actually began a friendship that I ended up tracking Mr. Cuban down, and I found him in Montreal a few weeks later celebrating his championship anonymously, and I crashed his dinner party to thank him for supporting our cigars, knowing full well that he had no idea who I was or what our cigars were. They just happened to be in the right place at the right time. But he had that can go one of two ways, right? You can get tossed out in your ear by a security detail, or you can, or it can go over well. And in this case, it went over well. He was like, you mean to tell me that you came all the way down here just to thank me for supporting your cigar when you knew I knew nothing about it? And I was like, yeah, man. He goes, nice move, have a seat. And so we ended up spending the weekend together and became buddies. And so one of our hubs now, fast forward to 2014, one of the hubs that we're developing is Dallas. We still have that relationship with the Mavericks and with Mr. Cuban, and we haven't. They're just friends. There's no business interest there with them, but it's certainly we see the Texas market as an opportunity to do what we've done in Toronto, which is develop relationships outside of the cigar business to bring not only to bring awareness to our brand outside of the cigar business, but also to bring outside people into the cigar business. Our passion really is growing the cigar pie, as I mentioned earlier. So it was a really neat story, and something that became more anecdotal than anything else, but is fun to tell.
So Marcus, did you watch the show Shark Tank before you met Mark Cuban, or no?
No, I didn't. I only saw that afterwards, and all of our buddies are like, "Oh man, you should go on Shark Tank," or it's Canadian cousin there, and called Dragon's Den. But it was real. It's really neat seeing him on TV there, and envisioning ourselves there, pitching our business to those guys. But two of whom are Canadian, by the way. But that was we haven't done that, and it's neat to be able to have that audience in private without having to go on the show.
Well, what's funny is kind of off subject, but I like to think that when I watch TV shows kind of like that, I kind of gauge people's personality and kind of judge their character based on their personality on the show, because it comes through on the show no matter what you do. So when you described your experience with Mark Cuban, that kind of jives with the kind of person that I perceived him to be from watching the show. So that was a really cool story.
Well, I'll tell you, Paul, I didn't know much about him going in, and I will say that he is, and again, I can only speak to my personal experience, he is as cool a dude as there is. He really is a jeans and T-shirt kind of a wearing guy, and not once in any time that I've been in his company has he ever turned down somebody coming up for a picture and autograph. Very grounded dude. He's a self-made guy, right? He's actually from Pittsburgh, where I'm sitting right now, and went to Indiana University and played rugby, and had that real coup there with the broadcast.com business, and he's obviously a real sharp dude, but he's a blue collar, feet in the ground kind of a dude from what I've gone to see anyway.
No, it's really cool.
And I'm looking I just Googled it, and I found a picture of Dirk Nowitzki with the cigar in his mouth, and it's definitely your cigar.
Well,
I'm looking at it.
So a year later, my buddy Matt and I, and I'll give props to Matt. He was the guy who really engineered this. Matt, who's now on our team in the States. Matt convinced Mark Cuban and Dirk Nowitzki to hold Dirk Nowitzki's stag party in Toronto. And, so the first leg of a 3-day stag party, they all came up, I think, on Mr. Cuban's plane there. They came to Toronto. They touched down on a Thursday night, and Matt had set up arrangements at the local hotel, which is one of our cigar partners, the Thompson Hotel, dinner arrangements around the corner, and then a nightclub, experience. And then, we have a pretty early last call in Canada, Toronto, 2 a.m., so the fellows were looking for something to do there at 2 o'clock, so I invited them all back to my place, and all of a sudden I have the Dallas Mavericks for Dirk Nowitzki's stag party smoking cigars and drinking Canadian Steve Mussel beer in my apartment until 6 in the morning. Wow. And, I had that picture that you speak of, Will, hanging on my wall at the time, and, that whole sort of time that we were there, I'm not they were just a bunch of dudes. It really was just a good time, but before they were leaving, it's about 5:30. We're all going for breakfast next door. I was like, Dirk, the least you can do before you leave is sign your own picture hanging in my living room. So he leans down to sign it, and to this day, there's this picture signed by Dirk in our apartment. It was real neat. These are the things that cigars can. Only cigars can really bring these kinds of stories to life. This is not something that you can plan for, and as much as we continue. Again, this business is a grind, as you guys know, and these little vignettes that we come across are wonderful in the moment. But you wake up in the morning and it's back to work, trying to rub the elbow grease in there to make sure that we can get these cigars around the world.
No, that's really cool. So Marcus, what projects do you have upcoming? What new cigars you got coming out?
So we have So right now we have a cigar which we've made for a friend of Claudio's in Italy. It's called Liga Maestro, and that's a cigar that's only available in the Italian market. It's done real well there, and it's something that we're going to roll out in North America over the next. And I can't give you a date yet, but we have to work through a lot of issues behind the scenes, and it's something that we're looking at coming out. It's a bit of a stronger cigar, lovely cigar. But in the short term, we're going to release another size coming up this year being next year. Really, we're only a month away. So we'll come out with a cigar which is something in a more slender ring gauge. We see not necessarily a Panatella, but more of a petite, like a 44 by 6 or so. Lovely cigar, same profile, and that'll come out of the gates here in the next few months. We're just working again. When you do your own thing, you got to take care of every little detail, right? And right now we're working on packaging and what does that look like for this cigar. And we have the tobacco already, in inventory, and the cigars have been rolled. We're just looking at the packaging, and then we have some other projects, which is one of them is a Maduro version of the full line that we have. So when we have the 4 full sizes plus the little guys, making 5, that would be the current lineup plus the new size we're releasing. Then we'd look to release that whole line in Maduro. So, but not just slap a Maduro leaf, a wrapper on it, but really reblend the entire cigar to perform as a Maduro for that wrapper leaf. And so Claudio's been working on some of those, some of that in the last, over the last year actually, and we've done some great taste testing down at the factory, which I'd encourage both of you guys to come down anytime to come down and smoke some real neat cigars down there. But really, quite frankly, guys,
wait. Are you inviting us down to Grenada? Because I'm totally there.
What hotel chain has the motto "The light is always on"? Is that Super 8?
Yeah.
Gentlemen, the light is always on, and we will, we'll take this conversation offline, but we would love to host you guys down in Nicaragua. If you guys get yourselves down there, we will love to host you down there and show you the lay of the land in Granada, and really show you what our version of the cigar experience. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that every year in January we have our anniversary party at the factory, and this year it'll be January 24th, 2015, and we'll have for the first time we'll have a number of U.S. retailers down there. Heretofore we only had Jim down there from the States from a retail standpoint. But for example, last year we had 60 Canadians, Americans, and Italians come down there to join 100 or so local Nicaraguans. And we have a wonderful time, and we fully extend that invite to both of you and anybody you may want to come down with. And like I said, we can talk details offline.
I have to brush up on my Spanish and Italian.
Indeed.
My last name is not indicative of my heritage, but I am actually mostly Italian.
Same here.
And I was brought up Italian, and I spoke quite a bit of Italian with my grandfather.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
So, but Paul, your last name, is that Armenian?
My last name is Armenian, so I'm 3/4 Italian and 1/4 Armenian. But I carry the name from my Armenian side of the family because my dad's half Italian, half Armenian. But his dad was Armenian, so that's how I ended up with the last name. But my mom's full Italian, so.
I got you. Right on. And Will, is Cooper shortened from Cooperici or what?
No, that's a very long story how the Cooper name came in, but I am 50% Italian.
Oh well, gentlemen. I mean, this is we must get you down to the factory then to smoke at the source with our boy Claudio.
Yep, and it's Sicilian, so I have Sicilian background.
Right on. Well, this is
on my
too
mom's
good,
side,
guys.
Yep.
Oh, that's funny. Very cool. Will, any closing questions for Markus?
No, I think I covered everything. This was a really enjoyable segment.
It was, yeah. Markus, thank you so much for coming on the Stogie Geek Show. It was wonderful to interview you. Thank you so much for the samples of your cigars. Very much enjoying the Nicaraguan Puro. It's very, very good. Very clean, crisp flavors. Very flavorful, medium-bodied smoke. So I encourage people to seek it out.
Gentlemen, I really appreciate you having me on and us on, and we'll look forward to seeing you, Paul, in Warwick, Rhode Island there in short order.
Absolutely, yeah. Come by our studio anytime.
Indeed, and Will, of course, I'll be back in North Carolina in post-haste.
Oh, definitely look forward to that. I know the guys over at Union Cigar, they love you. So
Yeah.
you won over a very tough retailer there, so very
that's
quickly.
great, man. Well, give my
I can
best
tell you
to
that
Nate
right now.
Oh, sorry, man. Sorry to cut you off there. But, yeah, give my best to Nate and the boys. And, gentlemen, we really appreciate your time to take some time to speak with us about Mombacho. And we might be new to the States, but we're not new to the cigar game, and we love bringing a little bit of Canadian cowboy flair to the action down here, and we look forward to smoking with both of you in person.
Thanks so much, Markus.
Thank you, Markus.
Before you go,
Yep.
I've got 5 questions for you. You ready?
Hit me.
All righty. You ready to play 5 questions with Stogie Geeks?
Well, you got it.
3 words to describe yourself.
Rambunctious. You know what? Scratch rambunctious. Devil may care.
If you were a serial killer, what would be your weapon of choice?
Love.
If you wrote a book about yourself, what would the title be?
Flying by the seat of my pants.
In the popular game of Ask Grabby Grabby, do you prefer to go first or second?
Ask grabby grabby. I prefer to go. I enjoy being grabbed. Second.
Pick 2 celebrities to be your parents.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's a tough one.
2 celebrities to be my parents. You know what? I can't choose better parents than I had.
There you go. You know, some people have said that, Markus. So, very good.
And yeah, I don't know much about celebrity. You know, I can't speak to celebrities with the exception of the facade. No, I shouldn't say facade, but with the exception of the image they portray in media. I couldn't pick parents based on that alone.
Very good, Markus. Thank you very much for appearing on the Stogie Geek Show.
Paul, Will, it's been my pleasure.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Markus.
Have a good night. We're going to take a short break. Come back with stories for this week. Stay tuned.